There you go.
All right. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay today. And Rebecca's over here in the background. And we got our guest, JM, on. So, uh, this is first time I've done an interview like this using the StreamYard. So, y'all bear with me, please. Me and Rebecca is still learning this. And we thank Spencer for his help this morning because it was interesting playing with pictures and trying to learn this system. So y'all bear with us, please. And here in just a minute, I'll let JM tell about his encounter and what happened there in his home state of Arkansas. And I know some of y'all from Arkansas is already in here, so this will be something pretty close to y'all's home. So it might be something you really want to listen to. But I appreciate JM um, contacted me. It's been about 3 weeks ago, I think.
Yep. Started out with him sending me a picture.
Yeah, that's right.
On Facebook.
Yeah, that's it.
And I was like, Mark, you need to see this.
So me and him went to talking. We've talked by phone several times, and I've listened to what he encountered and what happened, and there in his part of Arkansas where he's from, and um, seen some of the pictures he sent to me, and of course we're going to show a couple of them here in a little bit. We'll show them. So without anything else, I'll go ahead and let JM get started.
Do all your hellos first.
Well, yeah, let me do that real quick. Let's see who all we got. We got Spencer, Miss Bobby, Mr. Barry Browning, Northern Blue Eyed, PJ Arkansas, Janelle, Flat Rock, Greg, Mr. Mark D. So we got a good bit of people in here already. There'll probably be some more coming in here in a minute.
Barry Browning?
Yeah, Mr. Barry Browning. And so we got a good audience. Miss Donna West has come in. So we got a good group already coming in. There's some good people right here, JM. You've probably seen them on some of the YouTubes and stuff. There's some good people right here. Very non-judgmental people and very good people. So, and if anybody else comes in, I might just have to say hello through the internet or something. But like I said, bear with me. It's my first time doing it this way. I'm going to have to kind of get used to this. I know like Spencer and Misty and some of the other people are used to it. They can take off with it and go running with it. And I'm a little nervous being my first time doing an interview like this. So y'all just bear with us. And I know this will be JM's first time probably doing something like this too. So y'all bear with him too. And because this is kind of a new way of doing stuff. So, but JM, I'll let you go ahead and get started. You can tell a little bit about yourself, and then you can go into how all this took place and the stuff that you experienced and all that. So and if you need to stop and take a break or anything, you just let me know. We can take a break or however you want to do it.
And the pictures that we have showing are ready to show. When you want us to show those, just let us know.
Okay. Yeah, just let us know when you want me to show them, and we'll pull them up, and you can explain about the picture and what was going on and all that there. So
okay, sounds good.
All right. Let me ask this real quick. Everybody hear JM pretty good? I think they can, but I'll make sure. Well, ain't nobody saying it yet, so they must be able to get
here. Testing 1, 2, 3.
I guess go ahead and get started. If they can't hear you, they'll tell us.
Okay. Okay.
There's all the yeses now.
I'll go ahead, man.
Yeah, I never thought I would be on here telling this story. Obviously, a lot of people, first time, you have something happen, it's just not something I thought it would ever happen to me. But, over the years, I've known a few people that have had sightings of just the Bigfoot. I don't think I've ever known anyone that saw a dog man, but, so, basically for myself, I grew up now about 30 miles from where this area is, and I'm about to tell you about. So I didn't know much about it as far as the lay of the land or anything. So and I've been away from Arkansas for a long time, and out working and so forth, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be vague. I'm just uncertain about the line of work I'm in. At this point, maybe later I'll say more. But so I've always been pretty active in the woods, growing up hunting back there a lot, and then over the last several years I've gotten into hiking a lot, and so where I live, I hike a lot, and it's much more sort of, the hills are more spread out, so you have a lot more coverage area. Arkansas hiking wear you out because those hills up and down, man, they're pretty pretty rough. But anyway, I'm used to hiking, long hikes, and by myself. Nobody ever wants to go with me. Usually, I go by myself, and so that's been my hobby. And let me think what else might be pertinent. But anyway, so I during COVID, or I should say during the lockdowns, I got a job offer to leave the state. So I left the state, worked on the job for 2 months, and it was getting crazy here where I'm at. And so I did not want to come back. And it was right before Christmas of 2019. And so I decided, I'll go home for Christmas and then take it from there, which I did. And I ended up just staying for a long time. Anyway, I decided I didn't want to go back to where I, have lived. I had basically packed up and left for that job. So there I was in Arkansas, and I was bouncing around, sort of around Arkansas and Georgia and Tennessee and so forth, trying to decide where I wanted to land. I love Arkansas. I've always intended to go back in some way, but haven't quite worked that out yet. And so anyway, over the last 5 years, and I'd say even like before the lockdowns, I was getting to where I was going back to this area, and I'm just going to say to where my relative lives in this little small country community, and it's probably no more than 50 people scattered out in that area. So this is in Southwest Arkansas. I'd say it's probably about 30 miles from the Oklahoma border, something like that. So those woods and those hills and everything, they bleed right over into, straight through into Oklahoma. And so I was going to my relatives, and over the last 5 years, I would go back and I'd go there periodically. When I first went there, I didn't know anything about it. So I just sort of started discovering this area. And during the lockdowns, when I went, I stayed for months. And so I was there for quite a while. Okay. And what happened with the first time I went back there about 5 years ago, my relative said, well, why don't you hike down to the river? Just get on this country road right here, gravel road. It goes straight to the river. You can't get lost. And so that's the only place it goes. It goes straight down to the river. It's about 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles. And it comes down to a place probably about 300 yards from the river. It crosses railroad track, and then it doglegs hard to the left and goes. It's about a 300-yard stretch straight to the river, and that road goes down into the river. At one time, it did cross because it picks up on the other side, and this goes way back. And I guess people were, taking that. And I'm not exactly sure where that side of it comes out, but you can't. It looks like a logging road or something. It's not. There's not much to it on that side.
Right.
So, and then so when you get so this was October 1st of last year. Now I had already been down there hiking a handful of times, maybe like 5-6 times in this last 5 years. But the October 1st last year, which would be 2022, I one Saturday morning about 9:30. Let's see, no, it's a little bit later than that. It's about 10, a little after 10 by the time I got over there. It was a beautiful day, probably 60 degrees, somewhere in there. And my relative's dog is kind of, becomes my buddy. Okay, and also to say that my relative travels for work, and he's gone a lot. So I was staying there in these periods of time over the last 5 years. I'd stay there while he was gone. You could sort of watch the house and so forth. And so by this point, I had kind of gotten used to being there, and kind of became a part of that little area. And so this Saturday morning, I just suddenly decided to go for a hike, and the dog came with me, of course, and she wants to, stick right by you. And so we go down there, and she usually, they like there's another dog too that's doesn't really matter at this point, but when they would go down there with me, it's usually 2 dogs, and they would go ahead, they go down there and jump in the river, and they're playing. By the time you get there, they're already soaking wet. Now, this was the first time I had been to the river when it was this low. Every other time I'd been there, it was up maybe 4 or 5 feet, maybe say 3 to 5 feet. So that was the way I was used to seeing it. And this particular time, I get down there, and it's really low. In fact, where the road comes down into the riverbed, it's you got the sand and gravel bed exposed there. You walk it right out onto it, and the river has it starts narrowing down to probably about 6, 7, 8 feet wide for a spot as it comes around in front of you, and then it opens back up and everything. But it's still not that deep on either side. But and that would explain this road that crosses over. So as they told me, some of the locals told me later, that's the normal state of the river, and is when it's low like that, because it. I don't want to say too much, but it feeds. It's not a free flowing river, and it feeds off of a lake. Okay. I'll say that. Okay, so I think it's a controlled flow. But anyway, all right. So we get down there, and I hike for exercise mostly like that. So I usually walk pretty fast, and I get down there. The dog's already wet, and but she's not bouncing around like she normally does. So I walk straight down onto the river bed, and take my hiking sweater off, and then I take my base layer off, and I put my sweater back on. And so I do have a handgun on me, and which doesn't really matter. But anyway, so because I like to hike, and I'm always I travel a lot too, and so I like to take pictures all over the country, and it's just scenic photos, and I'm always looking for a nice kind of pretty angle, and post them online and so forth. So that's what I do. I just got my iPhone, and I take So I'm going to tell all this from the point of view of walking, standing on the riverbed. So I walk down. I'm still standing there. The river is flowing from my right. My right is upstream, so it's flowing right to left. And I don't remember the exact sequence, but I just start. I take a couple of shots, and the dog is standing over to my left, and I said, "Well, I'll take a couple of pictures of her," and then I took pictures to the right upstream, and I start walking over to that little 7-foot area where it kind of it looks crossable. And I was just thinking about crossing there and just seeing where this road goes, because it's not much of a hike. I'm used to kind of hiking a lot further, so it wasn't really a lot of exercise, in that sense. And so I walk right up to the edge of the water, and then I see, well, it looks like I got on high top hiking boots, but it looks like it might be a little bit too high. Didn't really want to get my feet wet and all that, because it was a little cool as far as, for having wet feet. So anyway, I just thought about it for a second. Well, I noticed that the dog is just acting strange. She's kind of like just not frozen, but just really still, and it's very unlike her. And so I turn and walk back a few feet over, and I'm kind of looking around, and then she's right at my leg. And I just looked down and said, "Are you ready to go already?" And she was, she wouldn't look at me, and but it looked like she was. Now looking back through these pictures I have, all the iPhone shots that I took, they're live shots, right? So they are, they're a little video. When you press on them, you get about a 3-second video. So I've been, I go back and review these things. So I'm looking at her in these videos, and she's looking. She focus here, and then she'll focus over there, and then focus. So I said, "Okay, well, let's go." So, again, I was starting to cool down anyway. So let's get out of here. Of course, I decided not to try it. I just decided to go back to the house. And so we start back up out of the riverbed. And when that road comes up and as soon as it kind of turns a little bit, and then it levels off. It's just a few feet out of the river. So it levels off. But when it levels off, I look to my left, and I can see like a little window over there in the bushes. Okay, let me back up for a second. When I'm standing in the riverbed and I'm looking upstream to my right, that it bends around to the left just enough where you can't see. You lose sight of the river. Okay. So anyway, back up here on this hill, and I turn and I look over to the left through this little window. Well, then from there I could see around that bend. And I wasn't looking for anything, so I didn't, I just happened to notice it. And then, but there was a dead tree, a big tree, laying on the other side of the river, about 100 yards away. And it was already, I was already had, turned brown and everything. And the big root ball was pretty good size, kind of dark color in that root ball. And then there were a couple of smaller, large branches and maybe a smaller piece of a tree kind of there with it, nudged up against it. And so something caught my eye, and I was looking. I said, in that root ball, and I it was odd. I said, well, it doesn't look right. And I do wear glasses. Didn't have any need to wear them hiking, so I was looking at it and squinting and saying, well, there's something in there, and it looks like it has a presence, right? And so I couldn't. It was kind of that root ball area, like I say, was dark, kind of blackish, but there was something in there that had not quite the same kind of shade, and a little gray even. It looked like, kind of scattered across whatever. And I, of course, first thing I thought is that a bear. And I said, no, there's at that distance, that size. I said, well, there's no way it's a bear. Why would it? And it looked like it was sitting down with its back to me. That was my impression I had whatever it was. Well, and of course, if that's the case, I said, I had a flashing thought that I knew it wasn't a bear. And I said, well, maybe is it a Bigfoot? Which I never ever imagined that's in any serious way that could possibly be in anything like that. But I was just trying to, so I said, well, I know what I'll do. I'll take a picture and I can zoom in on it later and see what it is. So I took, I think 5 shots with my iPhone and I should have zoomed in on it and then taken the pictures, I think. But it might have been less pixelated had I done that. But anyway, so I took the shots, and there was a curious moment. It was a curious kind of feeling. Now, you had asked me, Mark, if I had any feeling of any kind, and I didn't have anything that was specific. But I had this feeling like there was something alive out there, and I had my handgun, but but still, you never know. And so put the phone in my pocket and I took off. Well, by then the dog, she's all the way up there with 300 yards up there where the road bends. And she's already up there and she's turned and she's looking at me. I just threw my hands up and said, what are you doing? Because they would run ahead, but not normally that far. And she was clearly not acting right. And so I get back. Now this was definitely something that was a little off, but I wasn't really thinking a lot about it. And I got busy that day, and that evening I said, "Oh yeah, I took those pictures," and got out and started going through them. And I was curious, what was that I saw in that root bed and root ball, and so I got to where I could zoom in on it, and then I could animate it by pressing it, and I couldn't, they're not the best photos, but I think it was the second one that I could see it sitting there. Now, going through these photos, one thing is that its presence changes for one thing. But I think it was the second photo. It looked like that it had its right leg sort of bent out. I don't know, a foot or two or so.
Is it you talking about the one where it looks like it's sitting on the log or a bank or whatever it's sitting on? It's hard to tell.
If you go back to that other photo, Mo, the first one, or Rebecca, whoever's in control. So I'm talking about. There's the tree and all of that. Okay, now. So this is from day 2, so which we'll get to, but that's the same view. Yeah, you can probably leave that up. That's a good angle. Right. So I start seeing this, and I see it. So I'm pressing it, and I see it draws its leg in, and I freaked out, and I said, "Well, whatever it is, it moved, right?" And I said, okay, all right, well, wait a minute. Maybe that's not what it is. And obviously I'm just watching it over and over. So I'm going through the photos and seeing, well, is there anything else? Then I saw this little thing peeking out behind a tree. And to me, it looked like a little kind of a light brown monkey, I called it George of the Jungle, but
right.
So a little chimp looking thing, and then I was like, well, what in the world? And okay, so then I saw a couple other things. We can come back and go over some details. I guess I should just lay the whole story out. So, okay, so that was Saturday night. by the time I've seen all this, I'm kind of freaked out, and I said that I'm pretty convinced that what I'm seeing is what I think I'm seeing, but it just doesn't seem possible. It's just like that it seems like, I mean, other people have these things, and I know people very close to me that have had encounters. But in my mind, I was always kind of like 90%. Yeah, I'm open-minded about that. I kind of believe in them, but I don't, until I see a UFO, I'm still 90% on it. That's just the way it is. And so I said, all right, well, I'm not going back to the river. That's not going to happen. And that's how freaked out I was over it. And we're just, shaken up, I guess, in a way. And so come Wednesday, I couldn't take it anymore, and I said, "All right, this is enough of this." Because I said I went from I'm never going down there again ever with a group or anything to Wednesday. I said I can't take it anymore. I loaded up my 30-30, had my sidearm, and drove down there this time. And I think that was about maybe 3:30 in the afternoon, somewhere in there. Maybe a hair later. It might have been a little later in the evening where I don't think that, maybe long shadow time or something. But anyway, I drove down there. There was a spot where you can turn around right before you get to this little window here we're looking at. So I turned around and I backed down to where that spot is right there. So what I was going to do, I was going to take some more shots 5 days later. And I thought, if whatever it is still there, then I'm misidentifying it. But if it's gone, if it's a creature, an animal of some sort, it's not likely to be there 5 days later. And these other things, I was kind of, I wasn't sure what to make of them. So I did not want to go down there, but I just kind of had to. So I backed there. I jumped out of my car. I took 10 to 12 shots at this angle. This is so these shots you're seeing here are from that second day. You got a little different shading than you do on the first day. Same angle, and jumped in literally less than a minute probably, and I jumped in my car and I hauled butt out of there. And so now the in this shot, if anybody I think people on their laptop can even zoom in on it, but so you can see the dogman right there between those two vine branches hanging down there on the right, and then see that one. So that was he's probably about 100 yards off out there. I've fiddled with those pictures a lot to try on their contrast and stuff to try to get some clarity on them, because they're not very. I don't know why they don't look translucent, but they look like they lose depth or they're. I guess it's just the pixelation at that distance, but that other shot is what you wouldn't say is the original. So somebody could take that and fiddle with it even. Let's see that. Okay, so he's moving and so forth. And I'm trying not to get ahead of myself here too. So this was, I started reviewing these photos, and then it was, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I was finding here if you see that, you can see the tree right there. That is, I think on that shot. You can even see the creature back in that to the side of that tree is a branch sticking up, and he's kind of right in that crook of that
You talking about the
that
log is straight in front of
the
us right
branch
now.
sticks up over the log. But anyway, I was trying to piece all this together, and I just didn't know what to make of it, and so there's probably, from what I can tell, maybe 15, 20 creatures in this area. And on the first day, when I walked down into the riverbed, what from the pictures I took, I did discover there were 2 or 3 to my left, right behind the dog where I took the photos. And I sent you a photo of a face, which is probably dark, but his very, very prominent nose, and his right eye is very prominent. You can see the translucence in its eye, and there's a little dog man there in the water under a log. It just sounds crazy, and there's some silhouettes across from me. To my right, when I took the picture upstream, I have a video. I sent you that too, but you probably would need to be walked through what you're seeing. But there are 3 or 4 underneath the tree that what I saw was this bright light. It looks like someone had an LED light. This is broad daylight too. It's pretty bright out there. An LED light, and went from the ground straight up into the tree. And I said, well, what in the heck is that? Because there's like white, there's bugs and everything flying everywhere, and leaves reflecting light and all that. But this was very odd. So I started zooming in on it. Now, for that video I sent you, you can see these creatures scrambling on the ground. And from what I can gather, what one of them jumps up and grabs this infant, and at first I thought he was throwing him into the tree, but I believe what he's doing is he grabs the infant, and he hands it up to another one that's up there, and that one picks it up. But this is so fast; these things are moving so quickly, it's crazy. And the white light, that LED looking light, is all eye shine from that infant.
I wonder if it was when your camera took the picture that made the eyes light up, or were you able to see that what we call eye shine in the Bigfoot world? Was you seeing that, or did that just really just show up in the picture when you took it? Did we freeze up
over there? I thought you broke up for a minute. Yeah,
okay.
No, Mark. I think it's it does look like it looks like it's emanating from the eyes, which I totally don't believe in, but that is what it looks like. But
Okay.
it also looks like it could be reflecting off of like a something highly polished. It's a high reflection. But when you look at it, it looks like a light emanating. And so anyway, I don't know if you watched that because I was able to. I figured out how to take these live shots and translate them over to JPEGs, and so that's what that is. And they actually transfer pretty well, but I mean, it's what they started off being. And then the other one was I was able to get one screenshot of this thing as it's lifting up the infant. Now, it's just, it's kind of undeniable what it is, but that light is right. It pops, and it's crazy. So I've got some of these in motion. The other ones are hiding fairly well, but I have noticed that as I go through that if you see any movement, obviously you look there, because some of these things, there's a lot of the little ones, and so and then here, day 2, again, this shot here is from day 2.
Now this is on Wednesday when you went back.
When I went back,
Okay.
I jumped out of my car like a fool. That's when there's the dog man, and there are several of what looks like. I thought at first they were like some dogs looking things, and but I guess maybe they must be little dog men or whatever these things are that type. On this log, as I showed you, there's some sort of on my phone, I can't hardly see, but you can see it on the top of the log. There's a what it is. It's a big schlock of red hair. It looks like a bozo wig. I mean, and so I got a few shots of whatever that is peeking up over that log, and so that is there's another one then later, that the one standing up, and it looks like I don't. It's hard to tell how tall they are, but it looks like maybe 7 feet or something, but it's just completely hairless on its body, except for that head on its hair. I don't know if that's what's going on. And right. I don't know what and there's another one that's behind with that the on the left with that I saw the original one. There's another one sticking up there. So there's some other little just little oddities sticking up, but they're not all the same type. They're different variations, and it's just the weirdest thing. And so I
agree. Anytime you run into anything like that, it's strange because we're not used to that.
Yeah.
And we know if you got big ones, there's little ones somewhere that they're having offspring. So
yeah,
a lot of people have seen little Bigfoots, the ones that's about 3 foot tall running around before. So Dog Man would have them too. I would think.
Yeah,
would have them too. So being that's in October, which you can see where some of the leaves are starting to change colors, and of course the river being down low, a lot of times that's when everything does get low, is September and October till your winter rains start really happening. So, like I told, we didn't put all the pictures up. We just mainly going to hit some of the highlights, because all of us know, just like I've told you, you have some in the world that will nitpick you to death on something, and you know what I'm saying. So,
and they should, because this, criticism is it's just a healthy part of any kind of investigation or anything, right? Because I get that, and man, look, I was and after this, I was listening to all the shows. It's something that is is life changing in a way. I am very grateful that one did not walk right in front of me that could have any of those down there, because it's not something I ever wanted.
Right.
Wished for. It's even this has totally ruined my hiking.
I bet it has. I don't mean to laugh, but I know what you're saying.
I'm not. I mean, I've been on some short things here and there, but where I know that it's no. But I just, it's just this. I don't know. I don't want to say I'm scared, but it's it's just an uncertainty of. So I mean, there's some sort of there's a lot of speculation that could go on. I don't want to speculate too much, but I wanted to try to put together some sort of some sort of a narrative of what's going on in that I saw that I may see. And again, it's totally different when you can animate these and you can see some movement and so forth. Now the dog man, he's sitting there. I'm out of the car maybe a minute, and he's in the last two shots. Because and part of it is the way that if you move your camera a little bit, which I totally wasn't thinking about, if you move your camera, because when you take a shot, you take a shot, and then but it takes that couple of seconds for that because it's still capturing the rest of, because a live shot is not a video, it's actually a series of still shots. It's kind of like film, because film is just a series of photographs. So. I didn't know that. I wasn't thinking about seeing anything when I went back. So I wasn't, so a lot of these, some of them are the frames moving, right? But anyway, the last two, I've got that angle, and that's the dog man he sees me and his eyes pop because he toggles his head back and forth a couple of times. So one time he's got his, at first he's slouched over. He sits up because I think he's seeing all this commotion of what I'm perceiving as commotion because there's a few that are down in front of me, if you can see where the edge of the river starts right down there. It's not too far, but there's at least 3 or 4 that have seen me and they're crawling up. I got a video of one popping his head up out of the grass, but he looks like a little alien thing. I don't know what, it's fuzzy, but the dog man is seeing all this and he looks over it. So one shot you can see his ears are poked up like a couple of horns, and then he turns his head, but then his eyes pop like 2 saucers, black saucers, and back and forth. And I was out of there fast enough that nothing, that I could tell nothing was chasing me or anything. Behind the dog man, I don't even know if they want to chase. I don't know, And so on the bank behind the dog man is when you're animated, my phone swings around just a little bit and it opens up a little area. You can see a big black one on the side of the hill, and I believe he's coming down the hill. And they clearly could have caught me if they wanted to. I don't, at any point, I don't know what they were up to. But anyway, back to the story. I think that what seems to be happening is that the dog man is removed from this activity around the tree. And like you and I talked about, it looks like there's either 2 that are mating or giving birth, and it is hard to tell, but something is going on around that tree there. And looking at this, once you start zooming in on the photo, you can start seeing stuff like that. And then so I think it might be a birthing area. What do they call it? Nursing area maybe, but
right. Yeah, that's what some people call it, a nursing area. Or a nursery. Yeah, nursery. Probably that's what I've heard a lot of. I know Kumbo's referred to it as a nursery area, and it could be. I mean, we don't know that for sure, but I mean, by that many being piled up in one place and a lot of them being small, could indicate that is a nursery area. It could be an area they feel comfortable with that time of year. I don't know how much hunting goes on right in that river area right there. When I will say this, he did give me the location, and when I went and Googled Earth, the location, there is a ton of land. There was nothing in it. It's just timberland, a lot of cow pastures in the area and hay fields, and a lot of chicken houses. I ain't never seen so many chicken houses in my life in one place. But
that's the industry around there because of pilgrims and And who's the big one? Tyson? Yeah.
I believe
Uh,
Victor would
uh,
do well.
Sorry about that. I'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just as long as we're okay technically. Rebecca's a technician, so let me know.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, I know when you went down the second time and you left, now, after you seen what you seen in the pictures you got, when you, and let me make sure I got this straight. It was a few days later when you started noticing stuff around your nephew's house. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Or
that's right. Yeah, I was going to get to that. And
okay, that's fine. I didn't mean to jump ahead. You go ahead and finish what you're saying.
No, that's fine, Mark. I'm not, I'm not exactly sure how to lay all this out the best way, but that
you're doing fine. Don't worry about it. You're doing fine. Because I'll tell you now, all this stuff, what you're saying, I know a lot of folks say is crazy, but I've done seen the crazy too. There's a ton of these folks that's in this chat's done seen the crazy stuff. So don't think 1 minute that, because when you get into this stuff, a lot of us start off as flesh and blood people, and then later on we realize there's a lot more to this than just flesh and blood. Flesh and blood is part of it, but these things, all these beings or whatever they are, have some extra abilities that we can't comprehend right now. And it's because a lot of us have experienced paranormal, seen crazy things. So what you've seen to me is not crazy. I mean, it may be to some other people, but when I've seen paranormal and I've seen Bigfoot and UFOs, I've seen a good bit. I hadn't seen the dog man yet, but I hope that day don't come either. But if I do, if I do, I do. But so don't, because some of these people in this chat with us, they've experienced the same stuff.
Yeah, I've listened to a good bit of these podcasts, and of you guys, obviously are familiar. So with these, with me on this stuff, and I believe everybody. To me, the most credible. I'm always, I'll always be from the South. I'll always be a Southern boy, and it's when a guy's out hunting and has an encounter that changes his life, that to me is probably one of the most credible things of all. And now you can throw a little, anybody can throw up a story, but there's too many of these stories. Now, what happened was, the Kerry Arnold was somebody that was I had just started listening to his show, his podcast, right, and I even sent him an email. We had one exchange right before he was tragically killed, and he was so I was connecting with him. He reminded me of a friend of mine. And my point is that this is where I'm from. So all this is very credible. All the witnesses very credible to me from your community. But so here's then it gets into things happening, and once you've had something, once you've had, I would say, an encounter or a sighting of some sort, you start connecting the dots. It seems to me like everybody does. Like you start backtracking, connecting dots, but you also kind of your radar's on, and I think, and so pretty quickly. I left the state again not long after this, and then I came back right before Christmas again. It's been Christmas, and about I think it was about January, some weird things started happening, and so again I was there by myself most of the time, and it's this area is, there's houses scattered around. There's probably a house 100 yards to the left, 150 yards to the right. And right in front of my relatives is thick woods. It goes all the way back into this preserve, Weyerhaeuser Preserve that goes back for who knows how many miles. So, so it's really dark in there, other than there's a booger light down the street and then, ways and so forth. But right there in his area, it's all really dark. And so one night, my sister, who lives several miles away, was over there with some of the kids, and they left about 10 o'clock or so. I went outside and smoked a cigarette on the carport after they left, and I something was across because the little country road runs in front of the house, was across the road in the woods, was whistling. I was, it was. I'm not an expert on birds or anything. I mean, but it was whistling like it was directed toward me, and it was a pattern whistle, harmonic, but like it sounded like a bird, birdish, I guess, but it was kind of loud, and I mean, meaning it wasn't someone with their fingers in their lips, and whistled 3-4 times, and it just freaked me out, and I just felt like it was directed at me. I ran in, grabbed my 30-30, my handgun, and I went over to my sister's and I said, "I'm staying here tonight." So, okay, that may not be anything. Later, I did do some research on night birds and so forth around there, but I couldn't find a bird that was anywhere close to that pattern. And I've forgotten what that pattern is now. But then there was a series of howls, and kind of it's not a whoop, but it's kind of a scream howl that I heard it a few times around different areas, like once or twice across in front through those woods back there a good ways, probably at least a quarter mile. A couple other times back behind the house back there, and there are some houses back there. And then one night, right somewhere at the edge of the property, it's really close, I'd have to say, it'd be maybe within 30-40 yards, that was it sounded amplified. It was so loud. It was about 3-4 seconds, just a whoop, not quite a siren kind of pitch, but getting there, right? And and it was loud, and it woke me up, and I said, "What?" And then another night there was a right there in the yard as well. There was a growl. It was like now it could have been a mountain lion. It could have been something large like that, but it was a growl sound. And then the dogs were down the street, and it got their attention, and here they come barking. And then it was over. But that woke me up. So then, so this was all back in, by now it's probably back in March. About 3 o'clock in the morning, I was awakened by what I think 5 hoot owls, barn owls, that were 2 of them at least were right there. I thought they sounded like they were right in front of the window. They could have been on the eaves of the house, but and I actually turned my phone. I recorded it and stuck my phone in the window for about 5 minutes and let it just sit there and record them. So there were 2 or 3 there, and then there was another 1 or 2 back away. And by now I'm thinking, is that something imitating these owls? Because I'm starting to get suspicious, And so I gradually peek out the window. I don't see anything. So there's that. I don't know. Could have been owls because, you know, there are owls, right? They do exist, but I've never seen 4 or 5 right there clustered in that in like an area that's small.
Right.
Then one night I had there were thunderstorms coming through. Like I told you, I've been in some tornadoes, so I'm a little cautious of them. So I had the mind to wake up in the middle of the night, check the weather. Not very good, not very good warning system down there. Spotty phone coverage and so forth. So there's a chance that any kind of warning may not even reach my phone. But so anyway, I woke up and I don't know, it's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and it had stormed. It had rained, but at the time there was nothing happening. And then, crazy of crazies, make of it what you will, I heard something walking on the roof, and it was not. It wasn't a cat, because this thing had some weight to it, and it wasn't. It was a step, and then the weight bared on the step, and it creaked on the roof. And it's a shingle roof, and it creaked, and you could hear the weight. About maybe a minute there again. So I heard I think 3 steps, maybe 4, but it was very prominent, and I hesitate even mentioning that. I hesitated to mention it to my family. This sounds crazy, but I put all the stuff together. I don't know. I mean, like I said, owls are owls. There are coyotes that howl. One guy had told me about several dogs had just gotten killed within a week, within about a 2-week area of the neighbors around there. I think it's 5 dogs had gotten killed in their yards.
Right.
And then our dog, was attacked.
You said that your nephew's dog got wounded too, or something.
She was they wanted to put her to sleep. She was cut. It looked like whatever it was tried to gut her. Well, we figured. I mean, the story that we settled with, and the vet did agree with it, that it was probably a pack of coyotes, but they tried to gut her, and we were able to save her, thank God. But and believe me, I did pray about it, and but she was possibly lured out of the yard by one coyote. But
they will do that. They will do that.
It makes sense. Now, again, I'm trying, so I'm trying to be evasive about location and the details about certain things for certain reasons.
Right.
But it's not the end of the world, But this house dog was staying with me for the longest time. Then she started going down the street with another relative down the road a bit, and that's why she wasn't with me for whatever was walking on the roof, whatever the owls and the howls in the yard. She wasn't with me. I was totally by myself. So she was down there, and then they have a dog. It's the Great Pyrenees. Well, that dog was, untouched, no problem. So any of these things by themselves, I would totally not eat, except for the walking on the roof. That was freaky, but I would never really make much of it. And then, so right around that time, right around the walking on the roof time. So it was back at I think that was late March, not long before I left there. So we've got some property that is say as a crow flies. It's hard. I think it's maybe 4 miles from the river. It's closer than I originally had thought. If you drive, it's obviously further. But so if you're there in that riverbed, and you make a left, go downstream, cross under that railroad trestle. Now, by the way, I know I'm jumping everywhere. That the railroad trestle we'll come back to, okay? So, okay. And you go downstream there for a ways, you're going to hit a high line. And that high line runs straight up to our property. And I'd say it might not even be 4 miles. So again, not a big deal. So back there a few months ago, I was back. I go out to my property, check on it. Go out there, usually shoot my guns, and fiddle around, and think about life and so forth. And I was one day. So there's a metal gate back there where you walk in. You have to. It's not connected to the fence. So you can walk around the gate. And so I was walking in there one day, and I was fiddling with getting my Phobos holster, in my waistband. And I had stepped out. I had stepped into that little clearing as I was doing that, and right in that immediate area, you got several little tree islands, right? And then that goes, and you walk through those tree islands, and you come to the High Line, and that High Line will take you over to the pasture, about 20 acres of pasture. So I'm walking, fiddling with my holster, and around my 3 o'clock, so I got to kind of have my head down, and I'm walking, and I saw this flash to my right. It looked like kind of a brownish, kind of reddish, kind of like a dead pine straw color somewhere in there, maybe a little more red than that, but and it was kind of prominent, but it was just out of the corner of my eye. It flashed like it swept behind the island, one of those patch of trees, and it was enough where I thought there was something to it, and so I walked toward it 5 yards or so. I was kind of looking. I said, "Well, there's nothing there." Just thought, well, that's kind of weird. But now, about a week later, I come back, and because the rest of the day was uneventful. So about a week later, I come back in there, and same thing. I'm walking into I step into that first clearing with those tree islands. Something to my left, about 5 yards inside the tree line, growled at me, and it was a growl, kind of like a. That's not good. But kind of a growl grunt kind of a thing, and I've heard deer snort, and obviously hogs and so forth. It was something that wasn't quite fitting, and fairly loud, fairly close. And I just said, "What in the world?" Because it was so out of the blue. This is my property. I feel I'd go out and lay down in the middle of the grass and take a nap. And so I pulled my gun and chambered it, and I eased around the tree line all the way down to the High Line, and I came around that side of it. I couldn't see anything. Well, let me back up. I came around to the High Line, and I noticed that to my right, down the High Line, probably 80, 90 yards, I saw something black laying there right in where it was open, and I said, "What is this?" I couldn't tell what it was. I almost shot at it, but I didn't, and I went ahead and walked down there, and it was a big group of buzzards, about at least 20 buzzards had swarmed on it. There was a dead deer laying there, and so I got up there and was looking at the deer, and it couldn't have been. That was cool. It was still cool then, but it couldn't have been laying there too long. There were no significant signs of anything. There was no bullet wounds, arrow wounds, or anything like that. The only thing that was significant was that it looked like that its lower belly had been sliced open, because it was not about maybe a foot, and there was some intestinal spillage, I guess. It kind of looked like oatmeal or something like that. So I was assuming it was its bowels that got spilled out there. And then it's around its anus, about the size of a softball, was looked to be pecked out from those buzzards. But the rest of the deer was completely, there was no blood on it anywhere. nothing. And you asked me with a broken leg or anything. It was just laying on its right side. I took some pictures of it, and I said, "What in the world is it? That's weird." Well, my first thought, I wasn't thinking about any of this stuff, and my first thought was, "Well, we got a poacher out here." Now, my family deer hunts there, but otherwise, it's just we got it leased out to a guy to cut hay on it, and that's all it's used for, other than us going out there and shooting guns. So I left. So that same day, right, I heard the growl when I came in, and then I saw the deer. Now by the time I fiddled around with the deer, I forgot about the growl, because I actually sort of thought it was probably a deer, and I just mistook it. But contacted game warden, told him I think we got a poacher out there and all that. So, and then about 5 days, 6 days later, I went back out there, and that deer was gone. And not only was it gone, there wasn't a trace of anything. There was one little, you could put a little patch of hair that you could fit in a Dixie cup or something. It was just it wasn't a drag mark. There wasn't a bone, nothing, and no entrails, no blood, nothing. And I started asking around, well, what could do that? And I know that hogs eat things. Well, I haven't seen any hogs out there, and so forth. Eventually, I contacted the guy we got the land lease to. He wasn't messing around out there. I contacted the game warden. He said, no, I didn't. I asked him, did you happen? I don't know the protocol. I said, do y'all go out, and if I reported that, would you go haul it off? Not that he would, but I need to make sure. He said, no, I absolutely did not go out there. And there's been, let's see. Well, I guess all I can think of immediately up there. But if you get on that high line and you cross off of our property there, down there about, I'd have to guess about 400 yards on there, is just 3 or 4 chicken houses. And just immediately en route to there. Now the interesting thing about our property is we have some amazing underground springs that come up into an artesian well. Then we have another inside the wood. At one point, the springs start a creek, and the creek begins in the woods and runs down. So there's a lot of plentiful water there. There are usually about 12 deer that I know they're in there. That's why I don't want people in there, unless someone's hunting. Our family's hunting, but I see those deer all the time. We've got some fox. So that's that. I don't know if there's anything to make of that. And
well, it kind of points that direction. I mean, it don't definitely mean that ain't it, but by you getting a glimpse of something the first time you went to your property, and then going back a few days later and hearing a sound that wasn't a usual sound, and then finding a deer that didn't really have any signs of a human doing the damage. In other words, somebody shot it. And pretty good piece from a major road too, isn't it? Is it how far are you from is your property from a paved road?
Oh, that's probably not more than a couple of 100 yards. Yeah, a couple of 100. Yeah.
So more than likely, if somebody had struck the deer with a car, you would probably see the damage from it, and it would probably been laying closer to the road. I mean, it could have went that far.
Could have, yeah.
It could have went that far, but
and someone could have shot it from the back end and blown his stomach out. That's, I guess, I mean, why? But that's possible too.
I mean, it's all possible, but it's when you, by finding that after being down there a couple of times and getting a glimpse of something. I'm not saying a Bigfoot or a dog man or any type of cryptid done that. I mean, it could have been done by a coyote or anything else. But having the river right there at you, a transmission line. Most of us in the Bigfoot world know one of us that's been researching for a while, these things do travel transmission lines. You got a river right there with you. We know they hang around on rivers and travel rivers. And then that day when you said chicken houses, my light bulb just was going off left and right, because I don't know if the reports I've heard of these things getting in chicken houses. And plus, a lot of the chicken farmers, I don't know how they're doing exactly now, but used to, a lot of them had a pit dug somewhere on their property. And because you're going to have so many chickens die every day in a chicken house, there's no way around it. You're going to pick up a chicken. I mean, they have to go through daily and pick up chickens. So
Right.
if they have a pit somewhere on their property that they're throwing these chickens out, they may have to burn them now. I don't know what the protocol is now on all that.
Yeah.
But I know used to they'd throw them in a pit. I know Mr. Bill White, who was from Arkansas, a.k.a. Tall Banco from Benton, Arkansas. He done a lot of his research in Arkansas and Alabama. That was his two states. Even though he was originally from Arkansas, he loved to come to Alabama. And a lot of his reports deal around chicken houses, especially up in the Coleman, Winston County, Morgan County area. He said it seemed like the boogers up there really like to hang out around chicken houses. And some of the chicken house workers have seen them around. And in fact, that's how Mr. Bill got into Bigfoot, was when he was a sheriff's investigator. He had to go work a case where a farmer kept calling in about somebody going in his chicken houses, stealing chickens. And then they finally got a call one night, and he happened to hear the call come over the radio, and he went there too, him and two deputies. And when he went in the chicken house, on the other end was standing a Bigfoot with a bunch of chickens in his arms. So we know that for some reason these things, well, we know why they're using a chicken house. They're getting food out of it. But when you said your property had three things, and that was a river, a high transmission line, and a chicken house, and some chicken houses not far away, that just, to me, I mean, a lot of people may disagree with me, and that's fine, but that just tell me right there, right off bat, there's something using that area. Now, I know you were telling me too that out on that property, there's like another island kind of in it that looked like something had started piling sticks up on each end of the island, like there's a tunnel goes through it, and something was piling sticks up. You want to talk about that for just a second too? You can tell everybody about that.
Well, yeah, sure. Again, it was not something that I had really paid a lot of attention to, but then that in this, around this time of seeing this other stuff, it struck me as very curious. And it's a tree island. It's probably about, I'd say probably 50 yards wide. And so you get on the back side of it, next to where it would blend into the whole major tree line. It looks like it's just like a tunnel. That's I don't know why or how it formed. It's just one of those, it's that good old Arkansas thicket, brush stuff. But then there's a tunnel that goes through on one side, but on both. So you can see that there's it doesn't look like there's a pattern to it, but just a lot of limbs broken off and laying there. But again, it doesn't look specific for any reason. But on each end of the little tunnel, I did notice. In fact, that's originally what caught my attention, was that there were very what looks to be intentional breaks of limbs, pretty good size limbs that were broken over fresh limbs, and that are blocking it on both ends. And the one on the one side there's a deer feeder that my family's got up there that's 10 yards probably from it, something like that. And yeah, I don't know. It's there now. There's a I believe I don't know if I want to get into this. There's a we're trying to determine if there's an old graveyard right there adjacent on the property. But that's kind of, I don't know that is a curiosity. I can mention it, but it's not really worth getting into. But yeah, I don't know. There were fresh limbs broken and we do have some trees down too. Of course, you have high winds and everything, but a lot of times to do it in what looks to be a specific way was just really odd. And
it looked out of place.
It looked like it was blocking the entrance. Yeah, and so I did mention it to my relative. We were out there shooting guns and so forth, and showed him that. He said, "Oh yeah, that's weird," because he wasn't thinking anything else, and so it was something else. It seems like there was a little minor thing to throw in there, but that's about it, Mark. And I think back on the going back to the other area, the original place. I had gone back in those last few years of all those photos I had taken on the hikes down there, and it's no big deal. They're just random shots, and sometimes I'll get one that's a really kind of poetic shot, and I'll post it on one of the social media sites or something. And but for the most part, I'll hang on to them for a while and then delete them because I just don't like keeping them for very long unless it's an amazing shot.
Right.
So I went back and went on my one of my social media sites, and sure enough, I found 3 old photos going back no more than 3 years. One was on that train track when you cross over the trestle over the river. I was down there during the day, broad daylight. I think it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, hot as everything. No dog with me. Walked down there by myself. Walked out on the trestle. Was taking pictures of the river, looking around. I was probably on the trestle 15 minutes at least, and turned to leave. And I walked off the trestle.
You there, Jim? JM?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We lost you for a minute. It may have froze up a second or something.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, that's all right. So I went back and looked at that photo, and I found, there's a head sticking popping up over the side of the trestle. All right, whatever.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it's the dog. It's a dog-like head, right?
Right.
And then on that was more recent. Then before that, on one of my early trips, I believe I had a shot where I was on the road when I crossed from the road crossing the train tracks. Had a nice late evening shot straight down the tracks, and there are several. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. That's a live shot. That one's a live shot because you can animate it and they're crawling down the tracks. The one I sent you a photo of that, and you can see something standing in the middle of the track. So I'm sure you can't tell what it is. But the closer you come toward me, you can see them over on the side, and it looks like a family's out with a bunch of little ones, and it's just crazy.
Right.
It's just so I those things have, okay. So that one was in. I can get specific later, but those from photos from March-ish and then one in August, and then this thing that happened in October. So I was trying to determine if they're there through the winter, year round, or I don't know. But that's so. Let's see what
Well,
else.
well, I'll say this, and I know how the pictures are, and that's why, when I told you, you have to, a lot of people will nitpick it to death, and uh, but going back to this is, too, after I spoke with you a couple of times, I asked you, could I talk to Kumbo about this, and you said yes. So, me and him talked and went through, kind of what you told me, and about your area and about what you'd seen and some of the pictures and what you had experienced and me and Kumbo come up with the pretty much same answer that, well, he told me he already knew your area is hot. In other words, a lot of activity, a lot of sightings from there. Of course, he had worked a couple of sightings not far from where you're at, from where y'all's property there, is in Arkansas. So he knew, there was a lot going on in that area, and he did say they are Bigfoot and dogmen in those areas. He said, and even the BFRO has some sightings not far from you that's listed on their site.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some other websites that I seen, and he went and looked too, and he said, yeah, there's a ton of them. And like I told you, he'd even been through your area before. So
Right.
Kumbo was very, very, he kind of knew what I was talking about in the area and all that. So I some of your pictures, man, it shows something. I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, to me, it's hard to dispute it. But that's me. Somebody else may dispute it, because everybody has an opinion and everybody looks at pictures different. And I know I know where, and I do think that there's a group in that area. Look, and some of the stuff you've told me sounds more like Sasquatch. And because I really don't know enough about Dogman to come out and really say anything about them. I mean, because I've never, as far as I know of, have ever seen one or ever had activity from one that I know of. I always put most of it toward Sasquatch. And I think a lot of us really don't know what the dogmen do. Some of us have a foggy idea of what's going on with a Sasquatch, or we think we do. I'll put it that way. But the dogmen, I don't know if anybody can really nail that down. To me, but like Kumbo said, there's reports from that area of dogmen. So, it just, I went my computer for some reason. It just, adds more weight to it that there is something there in your area, or, living in that area where your kin people are. Let's put it that way. So,
well,
I hope I didn't mess you up.
No. It's like there's a lot to say, and yet, the thing is, I know 8 or 10 people, I would say, that have seen, that have over. And this goes back to when I was in high school, even, but people, no, more than that, at least a dozen, but in that area. There's some of the locals I've talked about with it about it, and they let's see. I don't think that they physically have seen them, but they know they're there because one was throwing rocks at their house and howling. But point being, there's enough people around there have seen them, and there's a little bit of talk about it. And a couple of people found out that I was down there and took these pictures and everything, and they wanted to talk to me. They wanted to see the pictures. They wanted to talk about it. But these people, nobody wants to, go public, and that totally makes sense to me. And then I know somebody that let me think. So let me say how to say this. Her uncles, I'll say that, both saw Bigfoot down in that area on the river. They had property on the river and saw in the river.
Right.
I guess washing. They said it was throwing water up over itself, and so it saw them and ran clear as day. Ran out of the river up the bank and scared them to death. And one refuses to hunt down there anymore. So these are people that are anyway. It's piecing it all together. And the one reason I did want to kind of talk about it is because it's just another little piece to the puzzle. And there's nothing that I can say or show that's life changing. But if everybody contributes a little bit, it'll kind of. And that's why everybody else that have seen them in that area but don't want to talk about it, that kind of encourages me to say, okay, well, at least, I'm not slap crazy and I'm not hallucinating, So
No, you're not. You're not. Trust me, you're not going crazy. Actually, getting on stuff like this sometimes can help you because you see all the people that are, which I know you're not seeing chat right now, but you actually got a lot of people that will back you up because they experienced the same thing. They're, like I was telling you earlier, a lot of them have experienced Bigfoot. A lot of them have experienced paranormal, the UFOs. I don't know how many on here. I don't think none of us on here on this chat right now. I might be wrong. That has seen a dog man, but there's enough other people that we know that have said they've seen them, and they're trustworthy people. Been knowing them a while, and I mean, your one picture there, the one is pretty clear. I mean, I don't know what else that could be. It's. I know it's not the clearest picture in the world, which we've done learned in the Bigfoot world. Nobody's going to get too many good, clear pictures. It just ain't going to happen. And if you got a picture of one standing 10 foot from you, smiling, waving at you, ain't nobody going to believe it anyway. So,
right, that's true.
You're. I mean, that's why I'm saying. And that's why I've told you in the past, I don't really post many pictures just because I don't want to go through all the yin yang about it. And because in the end, it still doesn't, it just, I don't know. You know how people are nowadays. That people look for something to dismiss something. A lot of them just because they don't understand it. And, but most of us in this group, and some of the other groups, we've all seen different things that tell us, hey, there's a lot more to this than just, it's hard to explain. I agree 100% because you don't have nothing to relate it to. It's hard to come out and talk about this, especially with people who haven't seen nothing or had any experiences. It's really hard to explain it to them because they just can't wrap their mind around it. People that's had the experiences, they can listen to you and they can understand where you're coming from. Because that day on the river, I mean, you had a lot going on there in just a few minutes. I mean, you had one sitting over across the creek or across the river, and then you had other ones over here playing around a log or whatever they were doing. And I mean, there was just a lot going on. And a picture does not give nothing credibility. Let me re-say this. A picture is not like being there. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, right.
You can show me 100 pictures of something, but till I come and stand on that ground and look at it myself, then I can take in the whole view. I can see. I see what that guy was really talking about. I mean, so I hope I explained that right.
No, you did. No, you did. And I, like looking at that when I walked down into the riverbed and that was taking pictures of the dog. That the bushes behind her are probably 10 yards behind her, and how I could walk past that, I think there are two adults in there, and I can see a couple of little faces, and how I could walk past those and not see them. and then the dog. So that's what I'm saying. I'm going back watching. I'm watching the live shots of the dog. I'm trying not to say her name. She wouldn't mind, but but and I see her eye, her focus. She's looking, and the other day I was looking. I said, "Well, what's she looking at over there?" Because she clearly looked over there, and I was able to find what she was looking at right in the corner of the frame that I had. Because a lot of stuff is out. I'm not even pointing in that direction, so I can't see what she's looking at. But she was shaken. You know how it is with a dog. You around a dog, you can tell. Not shaken, maybe on guard, I guess, or something. But how you can be that close to them is just amazing, and how quickly they can move is crazy. I never smelled anything. I never heard anything. Now, granted, this is an open area too out there. So when I took this picture that you had up earlier of that through that window, they didn't. I don't think any of them knew I was there on that first day. And the second day when I drove back in the car, it took them a little bit to figure out I was standing there. But that first day, I don't think that they ever knew that I was there. And so what was I going to say about so there's twice that I remember. I think it was the second time I went down there. Right before you get to the railroad tracks, it was a rancid, dead smell that was 15, 20 yards into the woods or something. I wasn't sure, but I remember that thinking, wow, there's something big died over there. And there's a lot of wild hogs around there. I told you somebody shot one. I thought someone shot one and left it on the side of the road, but I can't confirm it was shot either. Big hog, 300-pound hog or something. But there was that. That's the only thing I've smelled down there. The dogs are dogs. They're always seeing something in the woods, and then the other time was I was walking down the tracks. It was that day that I went to the railroad trestle. And that's the only time I've walked down the tracks. I always go walk down the road because they run parallel to each other to the river. But for some reason, I wanted to walk on the tracks that day. And there was some water, kind of an edge of a creek down there below the tracks, right down right in the edge of the tree line. Something big stepped into the water, huge splash. And I assumed it was a cow. There's some cows around there too, but it was kind of like, I thought it was more on this side of the fence, but I don't know. But that's the only thing that I've ever that's gotten my attention, put it like that, and that I thought back on that I said, oh, that was curious. But it's well, I don't know. That's just back to the pictures. I think that they are. I'm still trying to figure out the technology that Apple uses on these photos, because if you take these live shots, if I send them to you, they don't transfer as live shots. Though if you look it up, it says they do. But I've sent them to a couple people, and they don't. So they can't animate them. So that's useless. I'm trying to figure out a way to get them off of that format. And maybe get them through maybe an AI kind of processor to try to maybe clear them up or something. Because when I'm looking at them on my phone, I'm able to scrub back and forth. I can see them moving. I can see, all of that. If I send them to you in JPEGs, you can see it too. But I'm not sure how pixelated it gets when you put it on a big screen from that. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
A lot of right now, things are just kind of, I haven't done a lot of analyzing. Some of these I've fiddle around with contrast and so forth, trying to enhance them like I did with that Dogman thing. But there's a lot more to do, and I'm just not that tech savvy. So we'll see what I can get done with it.
If you decide in the future, there's a few people that's trustworthy. If you decide in the future, that would probably look at it for you. If you decide you want to go that route, if you can't, figure it out yourself, just let me know. I'll get in contact with them. They're very trustworthy people, and they will try to look at it for you, and see if what they can pick out.
Okay.
But that's if you get to that point. You need some help. There's a couple of people I can send you toward that would help you, and they're good. I wouldn't send you to them if I didn't think they were trustworthy. So,
yeah. Well, I trust you, Mark. So good. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming on and trying, telling what you experienced. And if I tell you what we'll do, I know I don't want to keep you because we already been on an hour and a half.
Oh boy!
But if you don't mind, I might let a few people ask some questions. And if you don't mind, if that's totally up to you. But if
anybody's interested enough to ask a question, I'm happy to try to answer it.
Okay. Well, if anybody's got a question they'd like to ask that he's able to answer, you'll go ahead right now. Y'all bear with me. I'm still trying to learn how to do this. So, this is a learning curve. I hate that you're being the first learning curve, but
you're doing great, Mark. You're doing great.
Well, you've done real good too. And I know being online, we get nervous or we get, you know what I'm saying. So, sometimes I get tongue tied. You know
what? I'm used to doing public speaking things, but this telling the story out loud, something unexpected happened. I started getting lost, kind of reliving it in a sense, but it was a freaky experience for me. I don't know if I'm conveying that, but it changed things for me. It changed, like I said, I can't go hiking again, not now. And it was a freaky, weird period since October. It's been strange, and I started connecting back into that, and I kind of lost my train, my thread there a couple of times. But
well, there's a lot of people. You're not in a boat by yourself. There's a lot of people who have had
some PTSD from
it. Yeah. A lot of people that's having a lot of time dealing with it. See how to word this. Well, you've been taught something all your life that all this stuff doesn't exist, and scientists say there ain't no way this can exist. You're taught this, you're taught that. Then the next thing you know, you got these things in front of you in a place you would never thought about them being. And I mean, it does. It brings you to reality, what I call it, a reality check. And different people process it different ways. And I mean, of course, first time I seen a booger, I had to process that. And I done basically kind of like you did. I started back then. We didn't have no YouTube shows going on, but there was some websites. And I went to, looking around and, checking out different websites, kind of like where you went and started checking out YouTube and different things and even speaking to some people. And I really appreciate you, speaking to me, trusting me enough to, speak with me about it. And, I hope that, that shows people that I am a trustworthy person, because I am. But also we want to get the truth out there. You've seen something. There's no doubt you've seen something there on that river that day, and you've had some other stuff that is odd. Very strange. So, but we got a few questions here. And I know some of these you got to be careful how you answer. Paramedic, he asked this earlier, I think.
And I tried to answer.
He said, "How far are you from Falk, Arkansas?" Which, if you want to answer that, you can. If you don't, that's fine too.
No, it's okay. No, it's in that. Don't we have? I think we call it some kind of a basin area, but that it's that an hour and a half, something like that.
Okay,
hour and a half, say, yeah.
Let's see, anybody else?
That's all I've seen.
Janelle said interview real good. And Janelle is from Arkansas.
Hello.
So she is, and PJ on here is from Arkansas.
All right.
Both of them, and David Hughes on here is right across from over in Texas, northeast Texas.
Oh boy.
Kind of over close to the Sulphur River bottom area.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably familiar with some of their areas. I'm not going to say where Janelle and PJ live exactly at online because they might not want me to say that, but they're not too far from you, I don't think. But,
Okay. Okay.
So
Great. Yeah. Yeah. It'd be interesting to get in conversation with them about things.
Miss Bama BF, I don't know if you can see her question or not.
Oh. Okay.
Says she missed part of it, but she wants to know if they're still around and do you get flyovers by helicopters?
Low flyovers.
So, well, I guess you not being there all the time, it'd be hard for you to say, but I'll go ahead and let you answer that because they may have been something went on during that time period that could have been related to that. And, but I'll let you answer that one. And,
okay. Yeah. We lost you for a minute there, but I got the question here. That's a good question. Yes. There are, it's funny you say that too, because, so are they still there? Well, they were there as of October for that, at least at 5 days. I know people that have gone back down there. There's a lot of four-wheelers down there. And by the way, if I look at that riverbed in the photos, which I couldn't help but try. There's four-wheeler tracks everywhere, but there's one right by the Dog's Head that I'm fairly sure is a print. So right there in the bed, but there's people down there fairly often at different times of the year. So there is activity down there, and I don't know if anyone is, of course, once they're on the four-wheeler, they would ever see one. And I'm sure that they would, get well hidden before they get there. So I don't know if they're still there, but I would assume they're traveling that river. And a while back, and I probably have to think about it, but it was about February maybe. There was the Weyerhaeuser property there. There was a helicopter that was right across our property, across the street. There was a helicopter was flying. It was dipping really low. And I was curious what in the world he was. I thought they were trying to shoot something. That's how low, like a military maneuver. I couldn't figure out what they were looking at. Now that could have been anything. And then not long after that, I heard one back down toward the river, buzzing down there. But again, now that's not Weyerhaeuser property in that direction. So I'm not sure what they were up to, but that's.
Well, the timber property could have been a helicopter fertilizing their pines.
Could have been, yeah.
That they do use helicopters to put their fertilizer out for pond. We watched them up on our hunting club before. Be up there. In fact, they'd have a truck up on the hunt club with a big tank, and they'd usually be in a wide open spot where that helicopter could land, and they'd fill him back up with the little whatever they're putting in there. I never did. I don't know if it's liquid or if it's some kind of granule or what. But and he'd take back off, and you'd see him fly. He'd go down, and he'd come up, back and forth. And
that's right.
So that could have been that. I mean, it's hard to say on that, but
he's doing that circular dipping in that same exact area for about 15 minutes. So, and I didn't see anything released, but I agree with you. I thought there could be some. I'm not a scientist. What do I know? What do they do over there? I don't know. So
right. That's a good possibility. And but now, when I started reporting about the boogers on my hunting club, it wasn't long after that we had helicopters buzzing the hunting club a lot, but these were military helicopters. These were military, and that's also when we seen the guys in the SUVs that didn't want to stop and talk to us at daylight in the morning. I mean, we went up there to deer hunt, Next thing we know, I got everybody on the CB hollering, wanting to know who his SUVs are coming through. And they come right by me. I tried to flag them down. They wouldn't even stop. They went right out our gate, and come to find out, our local game warden had been sitting down there at the gate that morning, and which is very unusual for him because usually he would come right in there where we was at and talk to us. And when I seen him later on, I went to hitting him up while he was sitting down there, and he's, I was doing reports. I said, 6 o'clock in the morning doing reports. So
Yeah.
I said, you just have started the day, he kind of looked at me funny. So for some reason, we think he was part of it. Maybe he was the ones that let them in, because he did have a key, because the paper companies around here give the game wardens keys too to get into all their property.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he came and unlocked the gate for them that morning, or if he was standing down, he was sitting at the road to kind of give interference. I know when I went in that morning, he was not at the gate. And that they could have come in from a different direction on us, and they were coming out that direction. But it was very strange that day. And it wasn't long after that when all the helicopters started showing up. And it was strange for a while. Then it kind of quit. So
yeah, well, when things aren't straightforward, it's I think we should get suspicious, because I mean, anymore you just don't know if they're telling you the truth about a lot of things. It's because that they're told not to talk about certain things, and not just game wardens, but a lot of officers.
Okay.
I'll tell you another thing. There's all kinds of little strange things around there, but it might be worth mentioning. Too, this is the same person in that general area told me this, that the story you told about the guy that walked into the chicken houses with the and flicked the light on there. That one was there. She told me the exact same thing happened to her, but she didn't turn the light on. She just walked in. She said it was around midnight one night. It took her that long to get around to going and checking whatever, the chicken house check. Oh. And she walked in, and she said there was something standing at the end of the chicken houses. There's 2 big red eyes, and standing there about 8 feet, something like that. And I said, well, what did it do? She said, I don't know. She hauled out of there, scared her to death. Well, you told me that story. I said, I guess they can open the door,
Yeah.
And then she told me recently that there was it was in her backyard, climbing up a tree, because she was out there looking for a dog or something, their little house dog, I think, and had ran out. And she said what looked to be a giant lizard climbing the tree. And I said, a lizard? She said, yeah. I said, now, wait a minute. I said, I said, you mean like a Komodo dragon kind of lizard? She said, well, it was just, it was about, 4 or 5 feet long or tall, or whatever you want to call it, with a big tail hanging down. That was extra. Yeah. And it was clamped onto that tree. And as soon as it was aware of her, it just scurried straight up the tree. I said, well, I didn't know what to make of it. I said, well, are you sure it was a lizard? She said, no, I don't know that it was a lizard, but that's what it looked like. It like a lizard type, presence, I don't know. I said, well,
I mean, I'm not going to count nothing out no more.
Right.
Us, when people talk about seeing these other things, and, I can't count that out because, I used to not believe in Bigfoot either. Then I seen one, so I can't say there's nothing else out there either. With the dog men and all these other cryptids that people are seeing, the reptilian style, the rakes. I can't say they don't exist because I haven't seen one, but these people are seeing something. And
well, there's a girl up in I saw up in somewhere in Arkansas, I think it's northeastern that there's a news segment. She said she saw, was it a pterodactyl or a plesiosaur? What is was one of the big big
the big
birds?
type. Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, that's totally taken serious, up there with these. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't even
Well,
believe that, but it's, but there it is.
I'm gonna go back
Well-
to living under my rock.
there's a lot of people talk about that. Some people call it the Thunderbird, but there's all over the country. There's reports of that, of people seeing a giant like bird thing. In fact, me and Rebecca was watching a show on it about it in Alaska yesterday, on that Missing Alaska show. That was talking about a big bird flying over, which they called it the Thunderbird.
Mm-hmm.
According to the people that seen it, it's kind of got a look of a vulture, eagle look to it. Yeah, kind of a condor look, but they said the wingspan was just massive. I'm not going to say something like that don't exist, even though I haven't seen it. I go back to that. I've seen Bigfoot and had interactions with them, and I'm not going to sit there and say there's nothing else don't exist, because we live in a world we don't really know a whole lot about. And I think we're going to see more as the future comes. And there may be some more stuff at play that I'm not going to get into right now. I hate to even get that stirred up, but I'll put it this way. I wonder if the veil has been opened a little bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was going to say, does it start with an N?
Yeah. Maybe so.
Yeah.
Well, but also we know there's a big spiritual war going on. We know, anybody with any, especially anybody with, here goes that computer again. Anybody that's been raised religious or goes to church regular, I know most of us know that there's a spiritual war that we can't see. We can see it, really. We can see the actions of people, but there's a war going on, and there's no telling what else is there that we just don't really know. And I think we're still scratching the surface on a lot of things. Let's see. Before we get ready to go, let's see. PJ says she's in northern Arkansas.
Okay.
And Janelle said if you ever would like to talk to her, she's the one that's in Arkansas. She said she would talk to you if you ever want to speak to somebody from that region.
Oh, great. Oh, nice. Thank you.
Janelle is a very good person, very good person. She's been over here in Alabama visiting with us several times, and Janelle's a very good person. She'd be very trustworthy, and and she's had some experiences with the boogers, so she knows a little bit about them. Let's see. I don't see really no more questions.
Yeah, neither.
So,
well, thank you, PJ and Janelle, both. Thank you for that.
Is there anything you'd like to add, JM, before we get ready to go, or anything you'd like to say, or anything?
Well, I would like to just sort of piggyback on what you said now, and then what you said before too. Is that there's it's hard to describe the feeling that you're going through when you're in the presence of these things, even if you don't know you're in their presence. But it feels, the whole thing feels spiritual. It feels like a spiritual dimension. Now, I don't know anything else, ultrasound, infrasound, whatever, anything like that, but it feels spiritual. I've been praying about it, because I totally agree with you. Something's going on. Those of us that belong to Christ, we trust in the Lord in all things, and so He has a reason for us going through this. Then there's just a reason. So I think that I think these things may be, I wanted to say in Scripture, it talks about that, in those days, at a certain time, beasts will come up out of the earth and all that. I mean, that's more prophetic, but I think the Bible describes a lot of things about in the belly of the earth and so forth. Well, they couldn't talk about dimensions, and I think there's a revealing right now in the spiritual dimensions that's going on, all kinds of things. And so I think that's what we're just getting a little bit of a taste of here. And I'm not sure what obviously none of us really know what to do about it other than just awareness and trusting in God that these things have no power over us in that way. But that's my final thoughts.
I will say they shouldn't have no power over us unless we give it to them. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like with any other entity. If you give it power, then it'll take it and run with it. If we don't give it, then it can't take it.
Amen.
I'll say it kind of that way. Maybe that made sense. But and I would recommend to anybody that's going to go booger hunting or just going out in nature, I would definitely pray for safety while I'm going to be out there, no matter what I'm doing. Even if you're just going for a walk, you ought to pray about it. And we're all guilty all the time, but a lot of times we get in a rush and we don't do stuff like we should. But we should make time to really pray about it on anything we're going to do, but to protect us from the evil spirits or whatever out there, that may be manifesting or however it's coming about. Because it's hard to figure it out, but I'm agree with you. I think a lot of this is biblical. I think it's hard for us sometimes to understand it, just because we're in a Western country trying to read stuff from the Eastern side of the world that was wrote, thousands of years ago. So, try to make sense out of it, but just, I really appreciate you giving us this encounter. I know that's something you could have just kept to yourself. And I think this might help some people just to know that, hey, I ain't alone. These things exist. Especially people that's living over in Arkansas, this may say, hey, I know there's more stuff here than besides the Bigfoot. And, to have us, but I will say this, we do have power over them. David just said right there, Christ has given us all power and authority, so he has all that authority on heaven and earth, and his name does go a long way. And these things know his name. A lot of people say, no, that's a bunch of, they know that name. I've had other researchers just bring up the name of Jesus out in the woods, and things get tore up, things get to screaming, leaving, and it just get dead quiet. So that name had some power to it for them to do that. There was something in that name that they knew. They knew that name, and they reacted to it, and they left. So and I've heard of 2 or 3 researchers doing that before. So
yeah. Amen.
Well, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna end the show a minute, but I want you to stay backstage a minute, and then I know you probably ready to go too. And I know we've been on here right at 2 hours. I know that's a long time to talk, but I really appreciate you contacting me that Sunday morning, because that's one thing I've said it a lot of times. I hope them things don't exist, but I've already heard from friends, and then here you are with a picture. I know that they're there somewhere, and like I've told people, I might even have a picture of one too off my hunting club, but I just don't know. But so don't know that for 100%. So, but Anyway, I appreciate all our people coming on today. Looked like we had some good people in the chat, and they didn't get to carrying on as much today as they did last
Thank
night.
goodness.
And I guess everybody wore out from last night.
Too hot.
Well,
There you go.
Little
Too hot.
Possum and Big Chief did make an appearance at the
Yeah,
start.
they did
but
make
we-
an appearance.
we,
I don't know if you caught our live last night, JM, or not, but
I did.
we had a pretty good show going. People cutting up, and that's good. We all need to cut up and have some humor, and we need that. You know, we need that positive stuff going on. So
That's
you
right.
know,
That's right.
have a good time. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You got, man. If you don't laugh, you could go crazy, right?
that's right. That's right. We got to have some humor in this life, and boy, they went on for a while last night, and then found out that some of them went on again after midnight carrying on. And I said, man, why didn't y'all let me know about this? But hey, I will be keeping in touch with you regular. And, when you go back home to Arkansas, if you have other stuff happening, you just let me know. And maybe one of these days might be able to meet up with you over or something.
Oh, it'd be great.
Maybe we can meet up and visit some of those properties, because it sounds like to me they're using that. And of course, this is all in my opinion. Sound like they're using up and down that river, and they're coming and buy those properties. And some of it may deal with hunting season. Some of it may deal with their breeding or their nursing season. When the hunters start coming in pretty heavy, they may come to properties that don't have much going on them. And just looking at that river, pictures and stuff, it's pretty thick along the banks way it looks in places. So, and we know they like to get in those thick places. So,
well, I do plan on getting back that way. Hopefully by the fall, we'll see. But maybe I might be able to go down there. I might be able to actually go with other people, so maybe with the right people, I can return. It's starting to kind of dissipate. You know what I'm saying? So
right. Well, just if you do get a date, and if you let me know, it might be where I might come that way. It's according to what all's going on, but
okay.
Now, what did you say? Spencer's still here, just listening, but not trying to wreck it for everybody. What's he? Oh, I know what
he's behaving.
He's behaving. Okay.
Oh, I've come to enjoy watching him and Misty go at it on the show.
Yeah, you get them
lot of
two,
fun.
then you throw Greg in the middle, boy, it does get going. And then some of the other people in the chat, it gets carrying on pretty good. So
all the others, absolutely. Yeah, it's a fun show. So, but this has been great too, Mark and Rebecca. Thank you all so much for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you being on, and I hope that somebody learned something from this that they could use later on if they start having them on their property. I know there's a lot of stuff, what can you really do with this, but there's stuff to learn from it. But if nothing else, it just shows you that they exist and that you need to be mindful when you're in the woods, that there's other things in the woods besides the regular animals that we experience, that there's other entities or creatures or whatever we want to call them. They're out there too, and they could be on your property at a certain time of the year, or it could be there year round. It's hard to say, but but we'll go ahead and end the podcast. But you just stay right there, and as soon as it's over with, we'll come back. And but I appreciate you being on, and I appreciate everybody coming in the chat, and like I said, anything goes on, you let us know, and and I'm gonna study you your pictures more. And like I said, if you get to the point where you can't figure it out, let me know. I might have a couple of buddies that might look at it for you.
Well, I appreciate that. And, I'll just say that as a follow up, I mean, there will be some sort of follow up on the photos of I can put more attention on them, some clarity, put them together in some sort of an album or something. Right now, it's just such a, I know it doesn't, they're kind of rough still. So.
Right. Well, you've not gonna see too many clear pictures in the Bigfoot world. Me and I know Misty's even brought it up, and some others. It's almost like they're putting off something when you get a picture of it, it makes them blurry. I think she's right on hitting the nail on the head. There is something about them when you take a picture of them, it just doesn't come out good and clear. I think one reason the Patty film didn't get messed up as much was because they was using old timey film, where all our stuff's now is digital, and I think stuff can affect that digital.
Well, you know what? I think I believe what they said, that they think that Patty wanted them to see her because she was trying to distract them from other, the other ones that were the little ones or something that were there, which makes sense. If they want you to see them, you're going to see them clearly, right?
Yeah.
But I think that Mark Zaski's onto something with that the clear hair theory. That may be a major part of it, and like the polar bears have. I don't know.
Could very well be.
Anyway,
well, I appreciate it, GM, and I'm gonna put you in the back for just a second, and we'll be right back in just a minute.
Okay.
Thank you very much, brother. All right, everybody. I hope y'all enjoyed this, and I hope that you learned something from it. And I really appreciate JM coming on, telling us his encounter and sharing some of his pictures. We didn't show them all, but give him time to really go through them more
Well, and some of what we got was screenshots, and screenshots do not carry over into video and blowing it up very well. So
it was hard for us to really.
We got a lot of pictures. We just can't really get them to share well.
Yeah. So, but I appreciate everybody coming on. Y'all make a good comment. Share. Hit that notification bell. I know most of y'all are subscribed, so I'm not even going to bring it up. But if anybody out there,
a couple new people on here today, so
we're slowly growing, but we got a good channel. We got some good people on that's very good thinkers and very good people. And like I said, always love one another, get along, be kind, don't be judgmental. Just be kind one another. And I'll be back this week with a regular video, probably on Wednesday or Thursday, and then we'll be back with our live next Friday night, our regular live. And Spencer's going to be on, not this coming Friday, but the next, whatever that date is. So pretty much 2 weeks away from last night, put it that way. So, and of course, I'll bring it up before then again. So y'all can come in and harass Spencer all you want to. So he going, wait a minute, I'll get a text in a minute. You watch and see. But
you're welcome, Spencer.
But I appreciate all y'all coming on today, and we're going to get off here where we can let our guests get off. But I appreciate everybody coming at this oddball hour. I know y'all going like, what is Mark Green doing on a live on 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon? So, but I was trying to make it convenient for him and us. And, I know a lot of y'all may have come in to eat lunch and stuff. So, but anyway, like I said, we love y'all. Y'all have a good afternoon, and we'll see y'all sometime this week. Bye-bye.